I don't know how many of you saw the Royal Institution Christmas lecture I recorded in 2002, but there was an unfortunate incident in between the dress rehearsals and the real thing, when things that I didn't really intend to be broadcasted to the crew were broadcast to the crew and caused great amusement. So I'm very, very nervous about where the sin. Somebody with golden brown, perhaps, I will learn from. So, welcome. It's so good to see so many of you here. I must confess, Simon, there are more people here than I thought you'd see, given the weather. METRC has an awful lot of political capital at the moment. There was an event in Manchester, no, in Leeds last Monday, where David Willits and Ian Gray from TSB were attending, and Chris Brink, who's now the head of the N8 consortium, said, yes, METRC, that's the thing that works. Okay? So that's what we're here to relaunch today. So my name's Tony Ryan, I'm the chair of the management board, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Northern Way of the N8 Research Consortium and how METRC came to be. So, I'll introduce METRC, I'll tell you about the universities involved, a little bit about phase 1 and where phase 1 got us, phase 2, which we're launching today, and then give you some encouragement to get involved. So what does METRC do? So it applies nanotechnology, but more broadly science and engineering research from the universities in the north of England. It was set up, so the Northern Way was set up as a political scheme to get investment into the north by New Labour. And interestingly enough, it's been taken on, this idea of sharing has been taken on by the current coalition. So it was set up to get the northern universities to work together, to work with industry to develop new products and processes, to reduce time to market for ideas where those ideas were developed in industry or developed in the universities through an open innovation model that we'll hear a little bit more about from Carl. And it was set up to provide access through independent brokerage to experts who could solve problems across, as it turned out, not 8 northern universities, but 11. And it was also there to make use of the book of technical innovations that had been created by these universities and bring them out to areas where they might be commercially exploited. And onwards and upwards, the whole ambition of this was to drive growth, to drive economic growth. So, how did METRC do it? Well, it funded collaborative research and innovation projects through a model which I think is very, very attractive in its simplicity. There was a pot of money. The pot of money in this case came from government via the RDAs, and access to that pot of money was only available if an industry partner and the university partner worked together. So that the universities couldn't access the money on their own, and the commercial entities could only access this research funding in collaboration with the university partner. And this funded a whole range of research and innovation projects. METRC also worked to provide a brokerage service, an honest brokerage service. So you could come to METRC and say, I'd like an expert in the widgetry to do with hair care, and the brokerage service would not say, at our university we have the person who can do exactly that. The brokerage service, though it was based in Sheffield, might say, well, actually the best person to do that job is someone at Durham University working with someone at Liverpool University. And it was the ability to look across the whole of the network that allowed us to offer this brokerage service. Consequently, both industry and academics could be helped to realise the commercial potential of their research. So, which universities were involved? So the Northern Way, as envisaged by, I forgot his name, I was two Jacks.
John Prescott.
There we go. Two Jacks Prescott. So John Prescott's vision for the Northern Way took these 8 universities, going from the north, Newcastle, Durham, the University of York, Lancaster University, University of Liverpool, Manchester University, the University of Sheffield, and the University of Leeds. So these are the 8 research-intensive universities in the north of England. Added to those were universities that had specific expertise that could be brokered and engaged in the research that wasn't inside these 8 universities. So already METRC was looking to augment the capability at the core universities by bringing others in. So the first of those was Sheffield Hallam, more recently the University of Hull, and Bradford University has been involved right from the beginning. So what happened in phase 1? We funded 85 research projects. Those 85 research projects were collaborations. 6 of those collaborations will be represented today in talks. Not all 6 of those collaborations benefited from METRC funding. Like some of those collaborations just were brought into existence by the networking capability that METRC brought. It helped 90 companies to innovate, created 20.5 jobs, 20.5 new jobs as defined by the RDAs, the money that was spent was £5 million. That £5 million came from £1.4 million of cash from the Northern Way, £1.4 million of cash invested by companies, another £1 million of in-kind investment by companies, and then various little bits and pieces, all of which adds up to about £5 million. And it created 20.5 jobs. In preparing the final report, rather than doing what universities normally do, oh yeah, that's going to turn into a £20 million business, we got some professionals in. So Deloitte conducted an investment analysis, and they analysed the 21 of the largest projects, and they reckon that the gearing on the £5 million investment would be that the economic return could be as high as £93 million. Now, I do want to temper this with Deloitte were advising the banking sector at the time. So we do need to be somewhat cautious about these projections. But the methodology that was used is a methodology that's validated in the industry. It's a methodology that brings some confidence in that a small investment can have a large economic impact if it's managed in this way. So I'm quite confident in using the Deloitte name and the prediction of, if you invest in innovation between universities and companies, you can get an enormous gearing on that investment. In fact, one of the projects that will be talked about today was small when Deloitte made the analysis. It's turned out that the quantum medics, the quantum MDX investment has yielded much more than we originally anticipated. If that had been in the numbers, they may have even been a bit higher. So, what happens in phase 2? Again, we have a fund for collaborative research and innovation projects. This fund is small. It's smaller because there is not at the moment an external investment in the pot, and the investment, the collaborative fund, comes from the universities themselves. So because of the return on the investment, and this plays very well with the current government's sharing agenda, that we should share resources, we should share equipment, we should share capital. So there will be a fund. We will continue to provide the free brokerage service. The brokerage service that does not have any basis in the location where the service is offered. It will access the expertise across all 11 universities. And it will help companies and academics once again to realise the growth potential of their research. The way we're going to do this is through METRC Innovation Awards. So this is funding to help companies and university researchers to work together to innovate. And we will also use the brokerage service to drive university industry collaborative R&D projects, to drive innovation projects, and seek funding, seek joint funding wherever that's available. So the Innovation Awards are in the areas of nanotechnology and more broadly science and engineering. Because of the subscription nature of the fund, i.e. the money that's being spent in the university under the project comes from the universities themselves, this fund's not very big. So it will fund feasibility projects to test out a novel idea. It will provide the capability to do small proof of principle studies, to get that preliminary data, to do that bit of market research that will enable universities and companies together to go to other funding sources, TSB, EU, with a much bigger project. Any company can apply, but preference will be given to SMEs. METRC can help you find the company. The METRC can help companies find suitable academics, and obviously vice versa. If there's an academic with a great idea that's looking for a company to work with, METRC can also take those ideas and take them out and find appropriate partners. But as often happened in METRC Phase 1, the link between the company and the researcher, no matter how it's made, can lead to a joint application. So, because of those who put in, the eligible universities for the fund are Newcastle University, Durham University, the University of Bradford, and the University of Sheffield. So whilst the brokerage service will be offered to the expertise of the other 7 universities, they can access the fund directly. Each METRC Innovation Award is worth £5,000. It must be matched with at least £5,000 of cash from the company. Again, this is a really simple way of working, and it's a way of working that we've been advocating to BIS. If we have a pot of money that companies can access by providing an equal sum to work with a university in a very simple way, this isn't a complicated funding mechanism, then both the academics can access that money, the companies can access that money only when they work together. Neither can access that pot of research funding on their own. The money is awarded to the academic group to carry out the research in collaboration. So here's an example. Company Professor X wants to investigate the synthesis of a new material or of material using raw materials that come from sustainable sources. Let's say you want to make a chemical from an agricultural waste product. How do you go about doing that? Well, to run the feasibility study, which say had an overall costing of £10,000, you'd need 1 METRC Innovation Award, which will give you £5,000 of funding, plus a £5,000 matching contribution from the company in cash, that would then give £10,000 to spend on that initial project. So, 5k from METRC, 5k from the company, 10k to spend on a project, away you go. The form to fill in is online. It's very, very short, it's really simple, and we'll deal with them through a management board to make appropriate decisions. What about the projects a bit bigger? What if 10K won't get you that start you need along this innovation pathway? So it's possible to apply for more than one METRC Innovation Award at once. But if you're going to collect more quota of £5,000 from the fund, then they must be matched one-for-one with cash from the company. So let's say that Company B and Professor Y have a proposal to work on sensing. So we're going to develop some device that will sense a disease state or something to do with food security, and we need to make that initial investment again in suitable materials, suitable chemicals, suitable systems to do the sensing. And the costs now are going to be much higher because there's bits of kit to buy, there's more detail involved. So now we have 4 METRC Innovation Awards, which give us 20K, matched with 20K from the company, that give 40K to spend on a project. And again, I won't go through this over and over because I think you've realised how it works now. It's a pound scheme. But if you are applying for increased quanta, you still only have to fill one form in. You don't have to fill a form in 4 times. So what about the assessment criteria? How are we going to decide who should be funded, what should be funded? So, to be eligible, it needs to be a UK-based company. There needs to be a strong commercial potential for the idea that has to be demonstrated. The project should benefit the company, not only the academics. And there should be a long-term plan for partnership. What will the outcome of the investment be to make that strong commercial potential become a benefit to the company, hence the economy? And how will the company and the research group work together to move these things forward? So Simon's very, very keen that this works slickly. I didn't want any early applications. So the call's been open for 25 minutes. Okay, so call opened at 10 AM. There's an online form on www.metric.co.uk. I don't think you can fill it in via Twitter. No? Okay. It must be something that we have to do together, so it's the first part of the togetherness and sharing process that will yield this research and innovation. The first call will close at 5 PM on the 6th of April in order that we can go into the assessment phase and give out the first tranche of investments. And then, depending on how this goes, the quality, the number, there'll be a later call in 2012 and maybe further calls in 2013 and 2014. At the moment, 4 universities are eligible. We're hoping that the political wind that's filling the sails of N8 will allow us to broaden that out. We're going to go back to the other universities once we've launched to make it wider. And I'm also anticipating that as we move forward, as we demonstrate the value of the current book and generate a new book of investment, that we'll be able to grow the fund. So, if you have questions, I'm not the man. Don't ask me. But I'm going to tell you who is. And I'm going to tell you who will give you help in going through this. So, the website is metric.co.uk. We have a dedicated knowledge transfer team, Simon Butler, who many of you have met, and Anna McIntosh, who's skulking about in the back somewhere, making sure everything happens. And that's kind of, that's how it works. There are people running around in the background making sure everything works. So the first points of contact are Simon Butler and Anna McIntosh. So, I introduced you to METRC. I told you about the universities involved, all 11 of them, and the 4 that are eligible for current funding. There are many, many examples coming up in the talks you're going to hear of how METRC Phase 1 worked, the benefits of METRC Phase 1. The key thing is the 19 to 1 gearing on investment to economic benefit that was predicted by the methodology from Deloitte. This means that this whole collaboration, this northern collaboration, is very, very popular, both with research councils, the TSB and government. So we're pushing at an open door in going together for these things. And we're just about starting Phase 2. So, METRC delivering innovation. Thank you very much.